I love it when a big company falls behind in a product category because it means they have to release a good product at a good price in order to catch up. And that's exactly what the Corsair Sabre V2 Pro looks like it's gonna be. It's finally a high-end gaming mouse with some really impressive specs at a price that doesn't make me want to launch a tech CEO into the sun. Inside this very small and light box, we have our mouse with a little sleeve. We have our dongle with a belt clip? I don't think I've ever seen this. We also have our 6-foot Type A to C USB cable. It's a pretty nice quality cable, braided. Even it has the yellow USB connectors. You gotta pay extra for that, like Razer was paying extra to have green. Other than that, we have a warranty guide. We have an alcohol pad because you also get grip tape and extra size glide skates. That's actually kind of sick because the first thing that's gonna wear out, and maybe the only thing that's gonna wear out, is your glide skates on this bottom. And here's larger ones for extra smooth performance. Interesting that they don't have the larger ones pre-installed. I would guess that's because of weight. They're trying to keep this thing at 36 grams. That's about as light as you can get for a regular retail gaming mouse, especially one without a honeycomb design. That's truly impressive, especially because it doesn't feel super flimsy, although it does feel exceptionally light. The nice thing is that on paper, at least, it doesn't look like there was any major compromises in the performance of this mouse to get to that weight. This is an 8,000 hertz polling rate mouse with a fairly high class sensor with the Corsair Marksman S sensor up to 33,000 DPI, 750 IPS, and 50 Gs of acceleration. So a pretty high caliber of sensor. Since we're already on the bottom, you can see the glide pads around the sensor. On the top, I will be swapping out for these bigger, chunkier ones later once I have a desk pad, so I don't wanna scratch these, make them less good. On the side, we have 2 buttons. Oh, those feel bad. Those feel really bad. There's like mush and click at the same time. It's kind of impressive that they did that. There's also this little printed design. I think that's fine. Puts a little bit of personality on this mouse. On the top, we have our clicks. Medium travel, not too loud. Those feel totally fine across the pressing spectrum. Our scroll wheel, it's pretty familiar to like a Logitech style clicky, the actual clicking of it. There's not much clicking to the mouse wheel, but I actually like that on a gaming mouse. I don't need a ton of tactility there. I just wanna know I pressed it. And these switches, although there's not a ton of information, are rated for up to 100 million clicks, which is plenty. On the front, we have our Type-C charging. This mouse works both in wired and wireless over the dongle, but there is no Bluetooth mode, which is fine. You probably shouldn't be using your gaming mice in a Bluetooth mode anyway, but sometimes it's nice to have that flexibility. Other than that, we have our off and presumably wired mode, and then wireless on switch on the bottom, and nothing else. This is a very bare bones mouse, but if you're buying a mouse for competitive FPSs, that's kind of what you want. You don't want a ton of buttons, you don't want a ton of features, unless you're some kind of sicko that really wants that extra weight and features and stuff. But that's not what this category is. What it is built for speed, not longevity. This has a 210 milliamp hour battery, which Corsair claims is good for 70 hours at 1,000 hertz or 16 hours at 8,000 hertz. I'm not the biggest believer in going to 8,000 hertz yet. There's other limitations that I think are more important, especially because if you're using things at 8,000 hertz, you're actually requiring more of your CPU, which could presumably, especially in an esports game, limit the performance you get in game, which would be more important than, you know, a sub 1 millisecond difference. And then there's other parts of a mouse that make your input latency much higher than 1,000 hertz to 8,000 hertz polling rate. So we can test that out, see if we feel the difference. For now, I'm gonna install these glide skates while someone else tells you about our sponsor.
PIA. A VPN is used to hide your IP address and mask your location while browsing the web. And it can help you conceal your browsing from any third parties that may want your data. With PIA, you can set your IP address to match over 91 different countries, and that can help you watch content not available in your home country. Pretty neat. With just one PIA subscription, you get unlimited connections across your devices. It's available for Windows, macOS, Android, Linux, iOS, practically any platform. So go check it out at piavpn.com/LTT or by using our link in the description for a special deal with a risk-free 30-day money-back guarantee.
We've plugged our dongle in. We think we've discovered what it's for. It's so you can clip it onto your desk pad. Don't know how I feel about that, to be honest. If you have any cable tension, it's gonna lift it up. I don't think I've ever really had the issue of my dongle going away from where I need it, and if I did, I could just like tape it to my desk. I feel like this is a solution in search of a problem, but certainly not a deal breaker. The good news is you don't need to download software. In fact, the iCUE software will apparently not even work with this mouse. You gotta go to the web hub, which is a great trend in gaming mice I fully support. I don't wanna have stupid software on my desktop. I wanna configure my mouse, get it all ready, and away we go. The one issue is that this mouse doesn't have like a DPI switch or a profile switch button. So it's a little more complicated to switch between settings, which isn't a big deal for someone like me who gets it set and forgets. In our software, we can assign our different buttons. I like the way we are looking right now. We can change our DPI settings. I know I want 800 and I don't want to be able to switch between them, so that's easy. We can also assign macros, which is not my thing. We can swap between our profiles as well as our other devices. And then in our device settings, we can change our polling rate. We're doing a short circuit, 8,000 baby. Sleep time, check our firmware. Firmware update. Oh, I do have a firmware update. It's a fairly bare bones amount of control, but for me, that's all I really need. Give it a pass. Let's play some freaking games. First impressions with the extra large glide skates and the super lightweight. This is a very smooth experience. It feels very easy to whip around, fairly responsive. This is where we get to the part of the video that might be a little bit of a bummer. Our labs tested the latency of this mouse, both over wired and 2.4 gigahertz dongle at around 9 milliseconds. And if you're not super into gaming mice, that might not sound that bad because that's faster than, you know, most Bluetooth mice at 12 milliseconds. But compared to sort of what is the gold standard of sub 1 millisecond input latency, that's not so good. And when I looked into the issue, it seems to be actually a Corsair defined one, where basically they were having double click issues. And so they made the debounce time 8 milliseconds to prevent double clicking or smash clicking. But that means that there's 9 milliseconds of click latency, which is pretty much a fail in my opinion on, you know, quote unquote high-end gaming mice. Apparently they are aware of the issue and they are gonna add a firmware update where you can turn down the debounce time. But then I wonder if we're gonna get double click issues. It just seems like a big flub on an otherwise pretty friggin' sweet mouse. We shot a video recently on LTT testing how much input latency affects gaming performance. And I expected it to be, you know, 10 to 50 milliseconds, somewhere in there. That's how much input latency you need to add before it's gonna affect your gaming performance. What we found was that at above 3 milliseconds of added input latency, you're gonna start to see a performance dip in above average gamers. So that means you go from, you know, your 1 millisecond gold standard to 9 milliseconds on this. That's 8 milliseconds above the gold standard. That's enough that it might genuinely affect your performance. So that's a huge bummer when you're buying a gaming peripheral that's supposed to help you be as good as you can be at gaming. There is already a built-in disadvantage to this one. And it's especially a bummer because this mouse comes in at $99 US. That's a little bit more than mid-range mice, and I'm often been recommending the Keychron M series, which is cheaper than this mouse. But for a big corporation with a mouse at this weight category with this feature set, $100 is not such a bad deal. But until they fix that input latency problem, I don't think this is something I can recommend. I think it feels good in the hand, pretty similar to the Logitech Superlight 2C, a little bit smaller than kind of the most flagship gaming mice. The build quality is good, the buttons feel pretty good outside of the side buttons with that glossy, mushy click, but that responsiveness is enough to make this not the mouse you should spend $100 on. At least not until Corsair fixes it, if they do. And you can't buy stuff on the promise that it might be fixed one day. One thing I found in my research, thanks to Tech Power Up, is there is a mouse that is very similar to this. It's $15 cheaper than this and doesn't have that 8 milliseconds added input latency from the debounce setting. And that is the Dareu A950 Wing. Very similar shapes, high-end PixArt sensor, 8,000 hertz polling rate, but it's actually gonna be good, which is kind of nice when you're spending any amount of money on anything. You kind of want that thing to be good. Just like you want my conclusions to be good, the ones that lead you to our next video. If you like mice, why don't you check out the time I unboxed the Keychron M5. It is a vertical mouse with all these gaming features, but it'll give you an idea of how good the rest of the Keychron lineup is. For the price, I don't think it can be beat right now.